15,000 shillings is the amount being disbursed to schools, if at all it will get disbursed, against an expected 22,000 shilling per child undergoing free education. And we were juxtaposing this with a story on page 5 of the Standard, where President William Ruto, when he hosted teachers at the end of last week at State House, he made a promise to increase school capitation to the recommended levels of 2,200 per primary pupil and 22,000 shillings per secondary student, but he promised that the gap would be bridged in 2 phases, half in the 2025-2026 financial year and the remainder in the 2026-2027 financial year, which is yet to be budgeted for. Allow me to welcome to the panel Sabina Chege, nominated MP, who's also very passionate on matters education. Madam Chege, before we conclude on this one, I think it is only fair I give you an opportunity to talk about the same. Matters capitation and matters allocation to schools are subject to parliamentary processes and budget-making process. We argue that the president appears to be making very casual statements and making promises that probably he is not even able to keep without the support of the National Assembly. That he can make a promise to increase the capitation, if at all he has been unable to increase it till now, because the allocation was made through Parliament. How sure is he that in the next financial year this will happen? That's the kind of promise he made to teachers. Is it feasible, or should he leave with the understanding that you can only afford 15,000 per child?
Well, good morning and thank you for the opportunity. First and foremost, I want to say, yes, there were promises that were made, but before the president makes promises, he has a team of advisors that sit with him. And before we see the state visits where we are finding some farmers coming in, like the KTDA directors, the teachers coming in, or various groups coming into State House, the president puts time to sit with, if it's the members of Education Committee, to sit with the minister, to sit with the people within the sector before he makes these pronouncements. So at the end of the day, what we see the president himself talking just about him and what he wants to tell the people, but what he has also consulted about. And I will say, for example, for instance, when he met with the KTDA directors and about their money that had been held at some bank for some time, the Committee of Agriculture was also invited, both the Senate and the National Assembly. So if the president make any pronouncement, then the onus is on the members of Parliament, if it's on their allocation. The people's representative in Parliament are the members of Parliament and also the senators. So that means then there must be a follow-up after the president has made this pronouncement and after they have consulted, then the follow-up is within Parliament.
The question is, members of Parliament passed a budget for the 2025-2026
yes.
Financial year, where they made allocations to schools, including for capitation. The amount that they allocated to schools for capitation was much lower than the 22,000.
Yes.
Yet the president is still promising that within the same financial year, that will be bridged. On what legal backing does he do that?
I think that's why we have supplementary budgets, because after we do the main budget, there's normally a supplementary budget, though it's capped on some percentage. And so what we should be looking at, and I think I'm one of the people who have been saying we have a lot of money in education, not necessarily the capitation. We have money in CDF that goes to bursaries. We have something called presidential bursary. We have also some other money that goes to the governors. They're also giving bursaries. I think what we need to do now is remove politics from education and make sure that we are able to facilitate. That we don't need then an MP to go and give bursary to a student, or else we would have put this money in one basket and would have been able to finance education.
Yes. You've previously chaired the Committee on Education.
Yes.
Can we say confidently that you can afford the 22,000 shillings capitation per child? Can we do that?
Where there's a will, there's a way. Though we work on what we are able to raise, and I think what we have done within education sectors, we have also increased the number of teachers. Remember, this is also money that is also in the education. We have also increased the money that we're giving for HELB. And so when we look at everything else and how we are doing the allocation in the education sector, it is better to have a teacher in class instead of having capitation and then we don't have enough teachers. And I think one of the things I would say this government that has done is to increase the number of teachers who have been employed. And I think we are almost heading to 100,000 teachers who are going to be employed by towards the end of this year. So we have allocated also money to TVETs, and I think we have expanded the amount of money that we have allocated to education to various sectors in education. So what I would say, I am a Kenyan. I would want things to work. Instead of just looking at the cup half empty, I would look at it at half full and see what is my contribution. If the president then has made that decision, if then I go back to Parliament, how are we able to make sure that this happens?
Why should we take this as anything more than just politics? That the president is simply trying to play populist and make populist statements to impress the teachers? We saw the celebrations in